Hello and welcome back to day 14. Today I want to talk about some guidelines and some of the limitations that come with the practice of a medical intuition. These are cautionary tales, if you will, not really stories, but there are certain things that you can and cannot do, in my experience, as a medical intuitive, and they are noteworthy. So number one, let go of trying to figure out everything. You don't have to know everything, and it's perfectly fine as a medical intuitive. In fact, it's imperative that you're willing to say, I don't know what this is. Obviously, if that is the most common statement you offer a client, your business, your work, your service will not go very far. So you need to always come back to your personal work. But upon occasion, you just don't know. That's not to say that your intuition is faulty. There can be lots of reasons for the fact that the data isn't arriving at your intuitive doorstep in the moment. On the flip side, your intuition will always surprise you. I remember when I was in college, I was at Ohio State University, and I'm a pretty good student. But sometimes I didn't know the answer. Didn't happen very often on a multiple choice test, and I used my intuition. I would literally look at the test, at the multiple answers available, and I would zone in through my intuition, and lo and behold, the answer, the one I needed to circle or mark on the test card, would light up with a subtle purple ring around it. I kid you not. And it wouldn't light up in my mind's eye, it would light up third dimensionally. In other words, I would actually see physically the color around the answer. So I'd put it down. I didn't know if it was right or not, but I was going to go play with it. Right? Operative word. When you play with things, you're going to have a lighter framework of expectation. That childlike beginner's mind that I've spoken about before, again, very important when you think you don't know the answer, and the problem is it's probably because you're trying to think it. You have to push through your mind, go past your mind, and allow it to come to you, always. But don't be afraid that you don't know. Number two, and actually this is really number one, so I'm not really listing these in order of priority. However, if you are not a physician, a licensed psychotherapist, social worker, psychiatrist, psychologist, if you don't have a license to diagnose, don't even go there. No, 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 no. You cannot say you have a cold. You cannot say you have cancer. You must never, ever say you have this or that disease unless you are a trained, licensed healthcare professional within the industrialized world's standards of ethics and procedures and policies. You cannot say that. Now, push comes to shove sometimes when your client is just emoting and suffering so, and no one else can find the answers. No physician, no MRI, no nothing has so far found the answer to their dilemma, to their pain, or to their suffering. You, as a holistic practitioner, more than likely have the natural healer or rescuer or servant, as in being in service, within your psyche. It doesn't give you permission to tell them that they have this or that disease. You cannot do that. Don't even try. You're setting yourself up for failure. You're setting your client up for failure. It's just wrong. Through the years, I have mapped the structure of various common ailments, conditions, imbalances, and disease states as they increase in their density within the field, as the body begins to be physically affected. But actually, more often than not, people come to me with either a mysterious condition that has thus far been undiagnosed, or they're in the middle or the end stages of a more significant disease. I don't tell them what it is. I offer and report on the intuitively driven information I receive in a very neutral way, never diagnosing, and then you cannot also prescribe. Never prescribe. I have a background, an educational background in nutrition. I educate clients on supplements and herbs to the capacity that I have. More often than not, though, I refer them always back to their healthcare provider, a physician, a nurse practitioner, a naturopathic physician, their Chinese doctor, with whomever they are working. And in addition to that, I often refer clients to categories of physicians so that they can do a deeper dive into the condition based on that physician's expertise. Something that frequently happens with clients or students is that they assume they know what they're looking at. Remember the old story of the blind man holding part of an elephant? The one who has the tail thinks it's a small snake. The one who has a hold of the trunk thinks it's a big boa constrictor. The one who held the elephant's ear in their hands believed that they were in touch with a beautiful leafy tree. And the one who had their hands on the foot of the elephant felt they were embracing a stiff, solid trunk. Never assume what you're looking at, sensing, or feeling is the full picture. With intuition, you have to have a very steady, laser-like focus on a single point. You stay there, you hold it, and allow the peripheral data to come in. If you don't allow peripheral data to come in, because remember, an intuitive works on multiple dimensions simultaneously. Data is teeming into our systems, our nervous systems. Our brain is trying to process billions of chunks of data all day long. If you don't hold that single point of focus, you're not going to get the ancillary peripheral data that is associated with that point of focus. Think about that for a minute. Bottom line is keep your intuitive eye on the center of the target and allow the peripheral data and ancillary data to come in so you have enough information to report accurately to your client. So therefore, they can go back and report to their physician. Then the physician can help them in whatever way they choose. You are not in charge of any remedies or results, again, unless you have license to do so. Very quickly, I have a rule that I do not work with any children or young adults under the age of 25. They simply do not have the context in which a medical intuitive works to understand what you're saying to them. The only time I have spoken with anyone under those age ranges is when I personally know the family, I personally know the young adult, and I have spoken with them and chatted with them and know them for years. So if they would come to me with a challenge of some kind, I can help them in a neutral way. Another important point is don't be like a cranky aunt when you're talking to your client. It's not helpful to bark at them and say, stop that, or don't do that, or grow up, or, you know what I mean? You just can't do that. The person on the other end of the phone, or if you do work in person, is hurting. That's why they came to you. Yes, you need to be clear and direct and compassionate, because that's really what compassion is. Compassion holds boundaries. Compassion isn't empathy. It's not sympathy. You don't go crawl into their body, metaphorically speaking, and match their energy and have a dualistic pity party there. You can't do that. That's not helping them. But you don't scold people. You don't shame them because they're wounded. There's no stop that, get over it, get behind yourself, quit that. No. You can't do that. I rarely use the words need or should or could. When I do, There is a need for it. And I say that to my client because I want to make a really clear, direct point based on the information I'm getting from their body, mind, or soul. As a medical intuitive, my work is intuitively driven, of course, and my focus is typically on the body because that's what's hurting. My next point, and this relates to the first one, that you don't know everything, you're also going to make mistakes. Now, the better you get at your craft, just like any skill or craft, the less mistakes you're going to make. This is why you never assume you've got a hold of the trunk of the elephant when the tail is where the problem is. When you allow your intuition to do the work, and remember, intuition is a vehicle. It is an unseen apparatus through which information is delivered to you. Information is not intuition. Information is information. So the more you hone your spiritual practice, clean up any psychology that you have from your own past, make sure you are in a good space to do your work in the moment with someone, you will make fewer mistakes. You're not perfect. None of us are. Be impeccable and keep on the other side of that dividing line that separates impeccability and perfectionism. Perfectionism has no place in your work as a medical intuitive. It's very difficult to even live your life as a perfectionist. Being detailed, being exact, being direct is not necessarily being a perfectionist. You know when you have crossed the line, when you feel that tension in your body, that you just are striving and pushing and grinding toward something. And in this context, an intuitively driven answer. The more you squeeze your intuitive faculty, the less data you will receive. Be open, be neutral, and be impeccable. Take care of yourself as a medical intuitive or any healthcare practitioner, whether you're a physician, a psychiatrist, a massage therapist, energy medicine practitioner, doesn't matter what you're doing. You have to take care of yourself, particularly if your work is only in the context of healing arts. This work has been the most amazing, awe-inspiring, catalytic career I could have been thrown into because it was not one of my choosing. And it's okay if it's one of your choosing. It just wasn't for me. I didn't wake up and trot down the stairs and tell my family, hey, I'm going to be a medical intuitive. Yeah. That didn't happen. But now that the field is open and burgeoning, I want people to come into this field. There needs to be a contemplative life attached to the skill sets that you will acquire and can acquire as an intuitive, as a professional intuitive. And they are necessary. They are needed. I've seen too many overbook themselves, get grandiose about their work, and they crash and burn within months. Some have to move across country, start all over, stay out of the work. I've been doing this for 38 years, and it's because I approach it with respect and guidelines. There are things I will and will not do as a medical intuitive, and that's what keeps my energy safe and solid. Because believe me, when your skill sets get to a certain level, you're in deep. When I say I go put my mind into the center of someone's brain, that is exactly what I'm doing. Or into and around cancerous tumors. That is what I'm doing because I'm assessing the structure and all of the peripheral structures to see the correlation between the two. How fast is something growing? Is it receding? What's the emotional intelligence? What's the physical intelligence of whatever I'm looking for or at? And then I pull out. I often refer to others when they ask me about how many sessions I do during a day, or do I have gaps of time in between? And in regard to the gaps of time in between, it's about 30 minutes. Because I consider once I take off in the morning like an airplane, I want a non-stop flight. If I'm up there in the ethers, so to speak, I don't want to land and then have to shoot back up again. And I don't do a low-level flight. I'm up there, 35, 40,000 feet, so to speak. When you fly in intuitively, you got to fly high and fast. Fast does not mean a lack of accuracy. It's precision, like an arrow or a laser cutting through the atmosphere. Literally, when an airplane flies around 20,000 feet, when you're just casually engaging your intuition, that's when you run into the turbulence. 20,000 feet, 10 to 20,000 feet in an airplane is where you run into weather, unless you have a big thunderstorm. Then you learn how to fly around it. So always take care of yourself. Meditation, Tai Chi, Qigong, yoga, walking, hiking, whatever it takes for you. You'll know what to do. And you need to listen to, and there's that word need again, you do need to listen to whatever your intuitive information says to you about what you need. Believe me, I've run over myself a few times and have the tire tracks to prove it. We all learn. And that's the whole point. Take your time, do your practice, your personal practice, and you'll excel because your heart and your intention and your karmic work of service is there. It is your dharma. It is the natural law of who you are and what you're here to do. I want to talk for just a moment about spontaneous connections because when I'm doing my medical intuitive work, sometimes, not all the time, because again, when my focus is lasered in on XYZ, ABC tends to be held back. So what I mean by that is when I'm doing my work, sometimes someone from another place, shall we say? In other words, a spiritual helper, a sweet soul that wants to come in and help. Sometimes they'll pop in. So it's a spontaneous connection. And as a medical intuitive, I don't always segue there. In fact, I rarely do unless it's absolutely pertinent to the question and intention of the client. More often than not, it's a curious onlooker, and I just don't go there. I do medium work with those who walk with us in spirit because they're a riot. I just love it because the door didn't close when I came back from my own death experience. I'll speak more about spontaneous connections on another day, but I wanted to mention it now. Because if you're doing work in the healing arts and you're deep into a massage and energy work, or you're doing medical intuition, and those pop in who want to relay a message, you have to pause because guess who's in charge of the session? Guess who is holding the energy of this precious client? You are. You're there to hold space for your client and do your job to the best of your ability. I'm going to close there for the day. There are many more guidelines that I could offer, and I feel these are some of the most important. To set yourself up for success as one who is in service to others, you have to have boundaries. You have to know the limitations of your current skill sets, and it goes without saying. When you don't know, you don't know. When you can't see something, you can't see something. When you can't quite feel it out, you're not getting all the information. And that's okay. That's not a fault. That's just a limitation in the moment. You will break through those as you practice the work, as you engage within the work, and as you engage and deepen your own spiritual practice. That is an absolute necessity to maintain a sense of balance, mental and emotional and physical equanimity within yourself as someone in the healing arts, particularly medical intuition. Until next time.